dare you look at me like that? You are insignificant. Get that mop and clean this mess up now, or you're finished.
The polished floor of the great hall was so quiet, you could hear a pen drop. Then, a sharp, cold voice cut through the air. "Stop right there." Everyone froze. Their fingers stopped typing. Their breath caught in their chests. Mr. Graves, the new CEO, was standing in the middle of the room. He was a tall man in a dark, expensive suit. His face looked like it was carved from stone. He was pointing. He was pointing at Samuel. Samuel was the janitor. He had worked in this building for over 30 years. His hair was white, and his back was a little bent, but his eyes were always clear and kind. He was holding a simple cleaning cloth in his hand. Now, those kind eyes were looking at the most powerful man in the building. "You are a disgrace," the CEO said. His voice was not a shout. It was cold and loud enough for everyone in the giant room to hear. "You are old. You are slow. And you do not fit our new image. You're fired." The silence that followed was heavy and sick. It filled the whole room. Samuel just looked at him. He did not cry. He did not beg. He just nodded, once, very slowly. Then he turned and walked away. But this was not the end. It was the beginning. Mr. Graves had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He didn't just fire a janitor. He had fired the one man who held the company's deepest, most important secret. What happened next was something no one in that building could have ever dreamed of. Stay with us, because the truth hidden inside that simple janitor's uniform is more powerful than all the money and all the power. It's a truth that will change everything you think you know about success and about respect. The main office of Apex Solutions was a giant room made of glass and steel. Bright sunlight poured in through the huge windows, making everything look clean and new. People sat at long, white desks, typing on sleek, silver computers. The sound was like a soft, steady rain. Click, click, click. This was a place of big ideas and big money. Everyone who worked here was smart, fast, and wanted to be the best. They all wanted to climb higher and higher. The air itself felt electric, full of energy and stress. It was a normal Tuesday morning, just like any other. But a storm was gathering and no one, not even the man at the very top, knew it was about to break. And then there was Samuel. Samuel was not like the others. He was old, with lines on his face that told more stories than any book. He moved through the busy office like a quiet shadow, pushing his simple gray cart. He was the janitor. For 32 years, he had been here. He saw new, young faces arrive, full of hope, and he saw them leave, sometimes as big bosses. He cleaned their floors. He emptied their trash. He wiped away the coffee spills and fixed the squeaky door. He was the one who found a lost wedding ring in the bathroom and quietly returned it. He was a part of the building like the walls themselves. Invisible but always there. Steady. We tell stories just like this one, about the quiet people who are often forgotten, the people who hold the world together without anyone ever noticing. We believe that every single person has a story worth telling, a story that deserves to be heard, no matter who they are. If you believe that too, if you believe in the power of these hidden stories, please think about subscribing to our channel. It helps us find and share more simple, powerful truths, just like the truth Samuel was carrying with him every single day. The new CEO was named Mr. Graves. He had only been at the company for 3 weeks, but everyone was already afraid of him. He walked fast. He talked fast. He did not smile. He believed in one thing: results. He saw the company as a machine. If any part of the machine was old, or slow, or weak, he would replace it. He did not care about feelings. He did not care about how long someone had worked there. He only cared about speed and profit. He wore dark suits that cost more than most people's cars, and his shoes made a loud, sharp click-clack sound on the marble floor. That sound was a warning. It meant he was coming. On this Tuesday, the click-clack sound stopped. It stopped right in the middle of the big, open room. Everyone felt the change. The soft typing sound got slower and then stopped. One by one, people looked up from their screens. Mr. Graves was standing there, his hands behind his back. He was looking at something. No, he was looking at someone. He was staring at Samuel, who was quietly wiping dust from a plant. The air became cold. Everyone held their breath. They knew something bad was about to happen. The silence was so complete, it was louder than any noise. "Janitor, come here." Mr. Graves' voice was not a request. It was a command. Samuel stopped wiping the leaf. He turned his old, kind eyes finding the seal. He did not look scared. He just looked at him. He slowly pushed his cart a few feet and stood in front of Mr. Graves. He was a small, older man in a simple blue uniform. Mr. Graves was tall, rich, and powerful. It was like watching a lion look at a mouse. Everyone in the room was watching. They were pretending to look at their computers, but their eyes were wide. They could feel the cruelty in the air, like a sharp, cold wind. Mr. Graves looked Samuel up and down. He looked at his old, worn shoes. He looked at his wrinkled hands. He looked at his white hair. Then he spoke, his voice loud so every single person could hear. "How long have you been here?" he asked. Samuel's voice was quiet but clear. 32 years, sir." Mr. Graves let out a small, sharp laugh. It was a terrible sound. 32 years, he repeated. "Well, that is 32 years too long. This is a company of the future. We are young. We are fast. We are strong. You are not." He pointed a long, clean finger at Samuel's chest. "You are old. You are slow. And you are a disgrace to our new image." The words just hung in the air. They were ugly and heavy. People felt sick. A young woman in the front row put her hand over her mouth. A manager looked down at his desk, his face red with shame. They all knew Samuel. They knew he arrived before them every morning and left after them every night. They knew he was the one who would help them jumpstart their car in the rain. But no one said a word. They were too scared. They were afraid that if they spoke, that cold, pointing finger would turn on them next. Their jobs, their families, their futures. They kept silent. And their silence was almost as cruel as the CEO's words. Mr. Graves smiled. He liked the fear. He liked the silence. It showed he was in control. He looked right into Samuel's calm eyes and said the final words. "You're fired. Effective immediately. Pack your little cart and get out of my building." He did not wait for an answer. He did not wait for a reaction. He just turned, his expensive shoes making that loud click-clack sound again, and started walking toward his big corner office. He had cut out the old part of the machine. He had fixed the problem. For him, it was finished. He was already thinking about his next meeting, about money, about power. He did not look back. But Samuel did something strange. He did not cry. He did not yell. He did not beg for his job. He stood there for a long moment watching the CEO walk away. Then he looked down at his own hands, the hands that had scrubbed and polished these floors for 32 years. He slowly closed them into loose fists, and then opened them again. He took a long, slow breath. It was not a sad breath. It felt different. It felt like a breath of decision. He turned, took hold of the handle of his simple gray cart, and began to push it. He pushed it past all the desks, past all the silent workers who would not look him in the eye. He walked past the big glass walls, toward the shiny silver elevators. His back was straight. He did not look like a man who had just been broken. He looked like a man who had just been set free. As he waited for the elevator, he looked back at the room one last time. His eyes were not angry. They were not sad. They were knowing. He knew something they didn't. He knew a secret that was built into the very floors he had just cleaned. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Samuel pushed his cart inside. The doors closed and he was gone. The heavy silence he left behind, however, was just beginning. After the elevator doors closed, the office was quiet for a very long time. It was a heavy, sick kind of quiet. Then, slowly, like the first few drops of rain, the whispers started. People leaned toward each other. "Did you see his face?" one person whispered. "He didn't even fight," another said. "He just left." They spoke in low voices, afraid Mr. Graves might hear them even from inside his closed office. The shiny, happy feeling of the office was gone. The glass and steel did not feel bright anymore. It felt like a cold, metal cage. And they were all trapped inside it with a new, hard master. No one did much work that afternoon. How could they? They kept seeing Samuel's face. They thought of all the times he had helped them. Like the time he found a lost wallet and returned it, with all the money still inside. Or the time he stayed late during a snowstorm just to make sure everyone got to their cars safely. He was more than a janitor. He was good. And they had all just sat there. They watched a good man get hurt, and they did nothing. The shame felt worse than the fear. They looked at their computers, but they weren't seeing their work. They were seeing their own silence. And the whispers were not just about Samuel. They were about Mr. Graves. Where did he come from? Someone asked. He just showed up 3 weeks ago. I heard he closed down 3 other companies before this one, another person whispered back. They were all trying to understand. Why would a big, powerful CEO care about one old janitor? Why fire him in front of everyone? It was more than just being mean. It was a show. It was a message. But what was the real message? Was he just trying to scare them? Or was there something, or someone he was trying to get rid of? The whole day felt wrong. The bright lights of the office seemed too bright. The click-clack of keyboards sounded too loud. Every time someone walked by, people would jump, thinking it was Mr. Graves coming back. He had broken the trust of the office. He had shown them that no one was safe. It didn't matter if you worked hard. It didn't matter if you were a good person. The only thing that mattered was if he thought you were useful. The company that once felt like a family now felt like a cold, empty place. And a big, empty feeling was left where Samuel used to be. A young woman named Anna, who had only been with the company for a few months, felt the most shame. She was an assistant, and she often saw Samuel early in the morning. He always smiled at her and said, "Have a good day, miss." Later that day, she went to the break room to get some water. And there, sitting on the counter next to the sink, was an old, chipped coffee mug. It was blue, with a faded picture of a boat. It was Samuel's mug. He had left it. She watched as 3 other people came in, got coffee, and walked out, ignoring the mug. They didn't want to see it. It was like a piece of him left behind. Anna slowly reached out and touched it. It was cold. She picked it up. As she held it, she felt a strong, strange sadness. It was just an old mug, but it felt important. Then she remembered something. Just last week, she had been in the break room, and Samuel was there, fixing a loose cabinet door. He was humming a quiet song. She had said, "You can fix anything, can't you?" Samuel had smiled, his eyes full of wrinkles. He tapped the wall. "These old buildings," he had said softly, "they have a lot of memories. You just have to know where to look." She had just nodded, not really understanding. She was still holding the mug when her computer made a ding sound. Everyone's computer made the same sound at the same time. It was an email. From Mr. Graves. The subject line was, "Forward." Anna put the mug down and went to her desk to read it. The email was short. It said, "Efficiency is our future. We do not look back at the past. The past is a weakness. We only look forward. Anyone who is not looking forward will be left behind." A cold feeling went through the room. This was not just an email. It was a threat. He was telling them, "Forget the janitor. Forget what you saw. Or you will be next." But the threat did something strange to Anna. It didn't just make her scared. It made her curious. Why was he so afraid of the past? Why did he have to tell everyone to forget? It was just a janitor. Why was it such a big deal? The more he tried to make them forget, the more Anna felt like there was something she was supposed to remember. What did Samuel mean? You just have to know where to look. What was she supposed to be looking for? The mystery was like a little seed, and Mr. Graves' cold email was like water, making it start to grow in her mind. That evening, the office emptied out faster than usual. Everyone wanted to leave. Anna was one of the last ones to go. She packed her bag, her mind still full of questions. She walked toward the elevators but took a different way. She walked down the back hallway. It was darker here and quiet, and there it was. The janitor's closet. The door was gray and plain. It had a new, shiny silver lock on it. Mr. Graves had worked fast. He had already locked it up, locking Samuel's life away. Anna stared at the new lock. It looked so cold, so final. It was over. She sighed and turned to leave. But then her foot hit something small. It made a tiny skitter sound on the tile floor. She looked down. At first, she thought it was just a piece of trash. But it wasn't. It was an old, small key. It was not a new, shiny key like the one for the new lock. It was a dark, brass key, the kind for an old, forgotten drawer or a small, wooden box. It was lying right in the shadow of the locked closet door, almost as if someone had dropped it, or left it. Her heart began to pound. She looked up and down the empty hall. She was all alone. Anna's heart was pounding so hard, she thought someone would hear it. The key was in her hand. It was not a shiny, new key. It was old, dark, and made of heavy brass. It felt warm from her hand, or maybe it was always warm. She was scared. Every part of her screamed to drop it, to walk away, to forget she ever saw it. Getting involved was dangerous. Mr. Graves was not a man to play games with. But then she thought of Samuel's kind eyes, and the way he had been treated. Like he was nothing. Like he was just trash. She closed her fingers tightly around the key. She stood up, her legs shaking, and quickly put the key deep into her pocket. She looked down the empty hall one more time. No one was there. She walked to the elevator, pushed the button, and tried to breathe. She tried to look normal. But she felt like everyone who saw her would know. She felt like the key was glowing in her pocket, like a hot, burning coal. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside and pushed the button for the lobby. She was safe. She was out of the office. But she knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something she did not understand. The drive home was a blur. Anna's mind was racing. She kept thinking about the key. Why was it there? Did Samuel drop it by accident? Or did he leave it? Did he leave it for someone to find? The thought made her shiver. When she got to her small, quiet apartment, she locked the door 3 times. She sat on her sofa in the dark, the key in her hand. It was so small, but it felt as heavy as a stone. It was a key from the past. And Mr. Graves had just declared war on the past. What was she supposed to do with it? Far away, in his own apartment, Mr. Graves was not thinking about keys. He was not thinking about Anna. He was pouring a glass of very expensive, very dark water. His home was like his office. It was all glass and black stone. There were no pictures. There were no soft chairs. There was only one thing, a perfect, clear view of the city. He stood at the giant window, looking down at all the tiny, bright lights. He saw the city as a big, beautiful machine. And he was the one pulling all the levers. He was in complete control. To Mr. Graves, firing the janitor was a good day's work. He truly believed it. He believed that feelings were a poison. Loyalty, kindness, history, these were things that made a company slow and weak. A company was a shark. It had to keep moving forward or it would die. Samuel was old. He was a symbol of the old, slow way of doing things. By firing him in front of everyone, Mr. Graves had sent a message. He had cut out the weak part. He had performed surgery. The company would be healthier now. It would be faster. It would be stronger. He smiled, a very thin, cold smile. He picked up his phone. He was not thinking about Samuel. He was thinking about the basement. On his desk was a big, rolled-up paper. It was a blueprint, a map of the Apex Solutions building. His eyes went to a part of the building deep underground, a part that had a big red circle drawn around it. This was his real plan. This was why he had been brought here. The firing of the janitor was just cleaning up. It was sweeping away the dust before the real work could begin. But what was in that basement? "Is it done?" he said into the phone. His voice was quiet and hard. "Yes, the old man is gone. He's out." He listened for a moment. "But no, there's no one left to protect it. He was the last one." He listened again. "Tell the board the asset is secure. We can begin the work on Monday." He was talking about the part of the building with the red circle. He was going to tear down a part of the building's foundation. He did not know that the old man had left a key behind. He thought he had gotten rid of the only problem. He was so sure. He was on top of the world, in his glass tower, looking down. He was looking at his big maps, his big plans. He thought he knew everything. He thought he controlled everything. He had no idea that the most important thing in that whole, giant building was not on his map. It was not his hidden asset. It was a tiny, old, brass key. A key that was now sitting on a small wooden coffee table in a small, dark apartment miles away. He had locked the door, but he had missed the key. Anna stared at the key. It was a strange shape. It was not a key for a door. It was too small. It was a key for a lockbox? A small cabinet? An old wooden desk drawer? Her mind flashed back to the janitor's closet. The new, shiny lock was on the outside of the door. Mr. Graves had locked it up tight. But what if this key opened something inside that closet? What if Samuel had a small box or a locker hidden inside? A place where he kept his things? A place where he kept his secrets? But how could she find out? The closet was locked. Mr. Graves had the only key. She was just a small assistant. She couldn't break in. She looked at the key. It was an answer, but it only gave her a new, bigger question. How do you open a locked room? How do you find a secret when the most powerful man in the company is watching your every move, just waiting for you to make one mistake? She was scared, but she was also angry. And she had to know. She had to know what secret Samuel had left behind. Anna did not sleep that night. She sat on her small sofa for hours, just staring at the old, brass key on her table. It was a small, dark thing, but it felt like it was filling her whole apartment. It was a choice. She could throw it away. She could forget she ever saw it. She could go back to her normal, safe life. She could be like everyone else in the office, quiet, scared, and safe. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Samuel's calm face. She saw him nod, not in defeat, but in knowing. And she saw Mr. Graves' cold, cruel smile. She knew she could not throw the key away. She had to know. The next morning, she put the key in her pocket. It felt heavy against her leg as she walked into the building. The office was even quieter than the day before. The air was thick with fear. Mr. Graves had sent another email that morning. It said, "We are moving forward. All old files are being moved to storage. All old equipment will be thrown out." He was erasing the past piece by piece. Anna felt like he was erasing Samuel. She felt like he was erasing the whole company's heart just to build his cold, new machine. She had to do something, but she still didn't know what. She walked down the back hallway. She had to see. And there it was. The janitor's closet. The new, shiny silver lock on the door looked like a metal eye, staring at her. It was a dead end. Her small, brass key was useless. It could not open this big new lock. This lock needed a special key card, the kind only security and Mr. Graves had. She felt a wave of hopelessness. She had the answer, but it was locked inside a box she could not open. What was she thinking? She was just an assistant. She was not a spy. She should just go to her desk and forget. She turned to leave, but then she heard a soft voice. "It's wrong, isn't it?" She jumped, startled. It was Mikey from the IT department. He was a young man with messy hair and glasses. He always looked nervous. He was holding a computer keyboard. What Mr. Graves did to Samuel, it was just wrong. Anna looked at him, surprised. No one had dared to say that out loud. Mikey looked down at his shoes. Samuel used to. He used to save the little bits of candy from the machine for me. The ones that got stuck. He was a good guy. Anna looked at Mikey. He was nervous, but he was also angry. Just like her. She looked at his belt. He had a chain with many keys on it. A swipe card for the server room. A metal key for a supply cabinet. A light bulb went on in her head. A dangerous idea. "Mikey," she whispered, "who has the key cards for the building?" Mikey looked confused. "You mean like the master keys?" "Security has them. At the main desk in the lobby. But you can't just ask for one. You have to have a reason. And Mr. Graves has to sign off." Of course. Mr. Graves. He had locked all the doors. It was impossible. She thanked Mikey, who hurried away, looking scared that he had said too much. Anna stood there, her mind spinning. She needed a key card from the lobby security desk. But that was the most open, most watched place in the entire building. The guard at the front desk, a big man named Frank, never left his post. He saw everyone who came in and everyone who went out. Asking him for the key was like asking Mr. Graves himself. It was over. She had failed. She walked toward the elevators, feeling defeated. But just as she reached the lobby, a loud, piercing alarm suddenly blared through the building. Beep, beep, beep. It was not the fire alarm. It was the security alarm. A red light started flashing above the front desk. Everyone froze. Then Mr. Graves' voice came over the speaker, sharp and angry. Security breach. Floor 14. All security, to the 14th floor, now. Frank, the big guard, jumped up. He didn't even look back. He ran to the elevator and pushed the button, his face full of panic. The lobby was in chaos. People were standing up, looking around, scared. The alarm was still screaming. Anna was standing just a few feet from the front desk. And she saw it. The desk was empty. Frank was gone. He had run so fast, he had left the small, gray keybox on the desk, not behind it. And in his hurry, he hadn't even closed the little door on it. The keys were hanging right there. Rows and rows of them. Her heart stopped. This was it. This was her only chance. It was a 1-second choice. Her whole body was shaking. She felt sick. This was stealing. She could be fired. She could be arrested. She looked at the elevator. Frank was gone. She looked at the other people. They were all looking up at the flashing red light, wondering what was happening. No one was looking at her. No one was looking at the desk. She took 1, 2, 3 quick steps. She was behind the desk. Her hand was shaking so badly she almost couldn't read the tags. Server. Roof. Maintenance. And then janitorial, all floors. It was a white keycard. She didn't pull it off the hook. She just touched it. She couldn't do it. But then she heard Samuel's voice in her head. These old buildings, they have a lot of memories. She heard Mr. Graves' voice. You are a disgrace. She grabbed the keycard. She slipped it into her pocket. It was done. She stepped away from the desk. No one saw. Her heart was pounding so hard it hurt her chest. She had done it. She had stolen the key. She started to walk toward the stairs, trying to look calm. Then, as suddenly as it started, the alarm stopped. The screaming beep, beep, beep was gone. The silence was almost as loud. Then Mr. Graves' voice came back on the speaker. But this time, it was different. It was not angry. It was cold and smooth. False alarm. His voice echoed in the lobby. My apologies. The system test. As you were. Anna froze. Her blood turned to ice. A test? The test? She was standing in the middle of the lobby with a stolen master key in her pocket. She looked up, and she saw him. Mr. Graves. He was standing on the glass balcony far above, looking down. Looking right at the lobby. Looking right at her. Anna's heart stopped. It felt like it had been pulled right out of her chest. Mr. Graves was looking right at her. She could not move. She could not breathe. It was just for a second, maybe 2. Did he see her? Did he see her take the card? His face was a mask. He showed nothing. No anger. No surprise. He just looked. Then he turned very slowly and walked back into his office, disappearing from the balcony. The silence he left behind was worse than the alarm. She was still standing in the middle of the lobby, and the keycard in her pocket felt like it was on fire. She forced her feet to move. Just walk. Don't run. She walked toward the stairs, not the elevator. She felt his eyes on her back, even though he was gone. Every step felt like she was walking through wet cement. She pushed open the heavy stairwell door. The click of the lock shutting behind her was the loudest sound she had ever heard. She was alone. She leaned against the cold, concrete wall and slid down to the floor. Her hands were shaking so hard, she had to sit on them. What had she done? What had she done? This was not a game. She was not a hero in a movie. She was Anna, assistant. And she had just stolen a master keycard from a man who set fake alarms. Mr. Graves had set a trap. That test wasn't a test. It was a warning. He was telling everyone, I am watching you. I see everything. And she had walked right into it. She pulled the white card from her pocket. Janitorial, all floors. It looked so simple. But it was a key to a secret, and now it was a chain around her. She wanted to throw it down the stairs. She wanted to go home and hide. But she couldn't. She thought of Samuel. She thought of his kind face, and how he was thrown away like he was nothing. She thought of the little brass key in her other pocket. One key was stolen. One key was given. It felt like Samuel was trusting her. It felt like a small, quiet voice telling her, "You are right. Keep going." She took a deep, shaky breath. She was scared, but she was also angry. Mr. Graves wanted them all to be scared. He wanted them to be quiet. She would not be quiet. Not anymore. She had to find out what he was so desperate to hide. She stood up, her legs still shaky, but a new feeling was in her heart. It was a cold, hard decision. She could not go to the closet now. Not after the test. He would be watching. The security guards would be watching. She had to wait. She had to act normal. This was the hardest part. She went up the stairs to her floor and walked to her desk. She sat down. She turned on her computer. She tried to look busy. But every sound made her jump. Every time the phone rang, she thought it was for her, to tell her she was caught. The rest of the day was torture. It was the longest afternoon of her life. She typed, but she didn't know what she was writing. She answered the phone, but she didn't know what she was saying. She felt like there was a big, bright light shining right on her desk. She kept looking at the clock. 3 p.m. 4 p.m. Mr. Graves walked through the office once. He did not look at her. He just walked by, his hard shoes clicking on the floor. But Anna felt his shadow pass over her. Did he know? Was he just waiting to see what she would do? Finally, the clock hit 5 p.m. People began to pack their bags. The sound of typing stopped. Laughter and chatter started as people left for the day. Anna waited. She waited until 5:30. 5:45. She watched as the office slowly emptied out. The lights began to turn off, one by one. Soon, it was just her and a few other people on the other side of the new, quiet room. It had to be now. She picked up her bag, her heart pounding a slow, heavy drum beat. She walked out of the office. But she did not go to the elevators. She went the other way, down the back hallway. It was dark now. The only light came from the red exit signs. It was so quiet. Her own footsteps sounded loud on the tile floor. She got to the janitor's closet. The new, shiny lock was still there. It looked smaller in the dark. She was all alone. She pulled the stolen white keycard from her pocket. Her hand was shaking. She held it up to the black square on the wall, next to the lock. She held her breath. She pressed the card to the reader. There was a terrible long beep. And then a loud click. A small, green light flashed. The lock was open. The door was unlocked. She did it. She looked around, down the dark hallway. No one. Nothing. She pulled the door handle. It was heavy, but it opened with a soft whoosh of air. She stepped inside. She was in the janitor's closet. It was pitch black. She pulled out her phone and turned on the small flashlight. The light cut through the darkness. The closet was small, just as she thought. It smelled like soap and old wood. There were mops, buckets, and shelves full of cleaning bottles. But in the back corner, under an old, dusty coat, was something else. It was a small metal box. A simple old, gray cash box. And on the front of it was a small, dark keyhole. Her heart hammered. This was it. She pulled the old brass key from her other pocket. It fit perfectly. She turned the key. The box popped open with a click. And inside there was only one thing. It was not money. It was not gold. It was an old, faded photograph. Anna's hand was shaking, making the small light from her phone dance over the old photograph. It was black and white and very old. It showed two young men standing in a wide, empty field of tall grass. They were both smiling big, happy smiles. They looked so young. One of the men was holding a shovel, and he had dirt on his pants. The other man had his arm around the first man's shoulders, and he was holding a rolled-up piece of paper, like a map or a plan. It was just a simple, happy picture. Why was this in a locked box? Why was this Samuel's big secret? She brought the photo closer to her face, squinting. The man holding the shovel, his eyes, she knew those eyes. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Samuel. It was a young, strong, happy Samuel from a time long, long ago. He looked so different, but his eyes were exactly the same. Kind and clear. But who was the other man? The one with his arm around Samuel? He was wearing a nice hat and looked excited and proud. He looked important. She carefully turned the photo over. On the back, in faded blue ink, were 2 names and a date. Samuel and Arthur. 1973. Arthur. The name meant nothing to her. Who was Arthur? And why was he with Samuel? 1973. That was more than 50 years ago. This giant glass building she was standing in, it wasn't built then. The company wasn't even here. They were standing in a field. Was it this field? Was this the exact spot where the building was now? A cold shiver ran all the way up her back. What did this mean? Why would Samuel hide a picture of himself with a man named Arthur? What was so secret about an old, happy memory? Suddenly she heard a sound. A loud clang from far away, deep in the building. It sounded like a heavy door closing. Her heart jumped into her throat. Was someone else here? Was it security? Or Mr. Graves? She quickly shoved the photo deep into her pocket. She closed the little metal box, turned the key and pushed it back under the old, dusty coat, making it look just like it was. She turned off her phone's light. The closet was black. She stood perfectly still, listening. She could hear her own heart, thump, thump, thump. Nothing. Just the quiet hum of the sleeping building. She had to get out. She opened the door, just a tiny crack. The back hallway was dark and empty. She slipped out, pulling the closet door shut. It clicked softly. She didn't know if the keycard lock reset, and she didn't care. She just ran. She ran on her tiptoes, down the dark hall, to the stairwell. She pushed the door open and hurried down the cold, concrete stairs, never stopping. She felt like a thief. She was a thief. She had the stolen keycard in one pocket and Samuel's secret picture in the other. She pushed through the lobby doors and out into the cold night air. She was safe. But her mind was on fire. Who was Arthur? When she got back to her apartment, she locked the door, but she did not feel safe. She sat at her kitchen table, her hands still shaking, and looked at the photo under the light. Samuel and Arthur. She opened her computer and typed Apex Solutions Founder into the search bar. The first name that came up was Harrison Price. The company was started in 1975. That was 2 years after this photo was taken. She felt a wave of confusion. So, who was Arthur? Was he just a friend? Why hide the picture? It didn't make any sense. She kept digging. She typed in Harrison Price. She found pictures of him. He was an older man with white hair and a serious face. He did not look like the man in the photo. She typed in Apex Solutions 1973. Nothing. Apex Solutions history. She found an old, small article. It said Harrison Price started the company with a brilliant new idea. It said nothing about a partner. It said nothing about a man named Arthur. It was a dead end. The past was completely clean. It was too clean. Just like Mr. Graves wanted. She looked at the photo again, frustrated. She stared at Arthur's smiling face. He looked so happy. And he looked familiar. But she had never seen this man before. Or had she? She looked at his eyes, the shape of his face. She thought about the people in the office. But he didn't look like any of them. Then she thought of the man on the balcony. The man who had set the fake alarm. She thought of Mr. Graves. She pulled up a picture of Mr. Graves on her computer. She looked at the picture of Mr. Graves, and then at the picture of Arthur. They were not the same person. Mr. Graves was dark and cold. Arthur was bright and smiling. But the shape of the face, the strong chin, the eyes, they were the same. They were exactly the same. Her blood turned to ice. They were not the same person, but they could be. They could be father and son. What if Arthur was Arthur Graves? Mr. Graves' father? Why would Samuel have a secret picture of himself with the CEO's father from 50 years ago? The rest of the day was torture. It was the longest afternoon of her life. She typed, but she didn't know what she was writing. She answered the phone, but she didn't know what she was saying. She felt like there was a big, bright light shining right on her desk. She kept looking at the clock. 3 p.m. 4 p.m. Mr. Graves walked through the office once. He did not look at her. He just walked by, his hard shoes clicking on the floor. But Anna felt his shadow pass over her. Did he know? Was he just waiting to see what she would do? Finally, the clock hit 5 p.m. People began to pack their bags. The sound of typing stopped. Laughter and chatter started as people left for the day. Anna waited. She waited until 5:30. 5:45. She watched as the office slowly emptied out. The lights began to turn off, one by one. Soon, it was just her and a few other people on the other side of the new, quiet room. It had to be now. She picked up her bag, her heart pounding a slow, heavy drum beat. She walked out of the office. But she did not go to the elevators. She went the other way, down the back hallway. It was dark now. The only light came from the red exit signs. It was so quiet. Her own footsteps sounded loud on the tile floor. She got to the janitor's closet. The new, shiny lock was still there. It looked smaller in the dark. She was all alone. She pulled the stolen white keycard from her pocket. Her hand was shaking. She held it up to the black square on the wall, next to the lock. She held her breath. She pressed the card to the reader. There was a terrible long beep. And then a loud click. A small, green light flashed. The lock was open. The door was unlocked. She did it. She looked around, down the dark hallway. No one. Nothing. She pulled the door handle. It was heavy, but it opened with a soft whoosh of air. She stepped inside. She was in the janitor's closet. It was pitch black. She pulled out her phone and turned on the small flashlight. The light cut through the darkness. The closet was small, just as she thought. It smelled like soap and old wood. There were mops, buckets, and shelves full of cleaning bottles. But in the back corner, under an old, dusty coat, was something else. It was a small metal box. A simple old, gray cash box. And on the front of it was a small, dark keyhole. Her heart hammered. This was it. She pulled the old brass key from her other pocket. It fit perfectly. She turned the key. The box popped open with a click. And inside there was only one thing. It was not money. It was not gold. It was an old, faded photograph. Anna's hand was shaking, making the small light from her phone dance over the old photograph. It was black and white and very old. It showed two young men standing in a wide, empty field of tall grass. They were both smiling big, happy smiles. They looked so young. One of the men was holding a shovel, and he had dirt on his pants. The other man had his arm around the first man's shoulders, and he was holding a rolled-up piece of paper, like a map or a plan. It was just a simple, happy picture. Why was this in a locked box? Why was this Samuel's big secret? She brought the photo closer to her face, squinting. The man holding the shovel, his eyes, she knew those eyes. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Samuel. It was a young, strong, happy Samuel from a time long, long ago. He looked so different, but his eyes were exactly the same. Kind and clear. But who was the other man? The one with his arm around Samuel? He was wearing a nice hat and looked excited and proud. He looked important. She carefully turned the photo over. On the back, in faded blue ink, were two names and a date. Samuel and Arthur. 1973. Arthur. The name meant nothing to her. Who was Arthur? And why was he with Samuel? 1973. That was more than 50 years ago. This giant glass building she was standing in, it wasn't built then. The company wasn't even here. They were standing in a field. Was it this field? Was this the exact spot where the building was now? A cold shiver ran all the way up her back. What did this mean? Why would Samuel hide a picture of himself with a man named Arthur? What was so secret about an old, happy memory? Suddenly she heard a sound. A loud clang from far away, deep in the building. It sounded like a heavy door closing. Her heart jumped into her throat. Was someone else here? Was it security? Or Mr. Graves? She quickly shoved the photo deep into her pocket. She closed the little metal box, turned the key, and pushed it back under the old, dusty coat, making it look just like it was. She turned off her phone's light. The closet was black. She stood perfectly still, listening. She could hear her own heart, thump, thump, thump. Nothing. Just the quiet hum of the sleeping building. She had to get out. She opened the door, just a tiny crack. The back hallway was dark and empty. She slipped out, pulling the closet door shut. It clicked softly. She didn't know if the keycard lock reset, and she didn't care. She just ran. She ran on her tiptoes, down the dark hall, to the stairwell. She pushed the door open and hurried down the cold, concrete stairs, never stopping. She felt like a thief. She was a thief. She had the stolen keycard in one pocket and Samuel's secret picture in the other. She pushed through the lobby doors and out into the cold night air. She was safe. But her mind was on fire. Who was Arthur? When she got back to her apartment, she locked the door, but she did not feel safe. She sat at her kitchen table, her hands still shaking, and looked at the photo under the light. Samuel and Arthur. She opened her computer and typed Apex Solutions Founder into the search bar. The first name that came up was Harrison Price. The company was started in 1975. That was 2 years after this photo was taken. She felt a wave of confusion. So, who was Arthur? Was he just a friend? Why hide the picture? It didn't make any sense. She kept digging. She typed in Harrison Price. She found pictures of him. He was an older man with white hair and a serious face. He did not look like the man in the photo. She typed in Apex Solutions 1973. Nothing. Apex Solutions history. She found an old, small article. It said Harrison Price started the company with a brilliant new idea. It said nothing about a partner. It said nothing about a man named Arthur. It was a dead end. The past was completely clean. It was too clean. Just like Mr. Graves wanted. She looked at the photo again, frustrated. She stared at Arthur's smiling face. He looked so happy. And he looked familiar. But she had never seen this man before. Or had she? She looked at his eyes, the shape of his face. She thought about the people in the office. But he didn't look like any of them. Then she thought of the man on the balcony. The man who had set the fake alarm. She thought of Mr. Graves. She pulled up a picture of Mr. Graves on her computer. She looked at the picture of Mr. Graves, and then at the picture of Arthur. They were not the same person. Mr. Graves was dark and cold. Arthur was bright and smiling. But the shape of the face, the strong chin, the eyes, they were the same. They were exactly the same. Her blood turned to ice. They were not the same person, but they could be. They could be father and son. What if Arthur was Arthur Graves? Mr. Graves' father? Why would Samuel have a secret picture of himself with the CEO's father from 50 years ago? She grabbed her coat. It was past midnight. She didn't care. She drove to his apartment, her heart pounding against her ribs. She was scared he would shut the door in her face. She was scared he would think she was crazy. She knocked, her hand shaking. A moment later, the door opened a tiny crack. Mikey's wide, scared eyes looked out. Anna? What are you? It's the middle of the night. You can't be here. What if someone saw you? Please, Mikey, she whispered, her voice shaking. I know, but you have to let me in. You were right about Samuel. It's so much worse than you think. Please. He looked at her for a long second. He saw the real, honest fear in her eyes. He opened the door. His apartment was dark, lit only by the blue glow of 5 computer screens. What is going on? He asked. She didn't say anything. She just walked to his table and laid the old, black and white photo down. I found this, she said, in Samuel's closet. Mikey leaned in, squinting. Who are they? That one, she said, pointing, is a young Samuel. And that one is Mr. Graves' father. Mikey's blood ran cold. He listened, his mouth open, as Anna told him everything. The name change. The stolen company. Samuel Morrow, chief structural engineer. When she finished, Mikey was pale. He made the builder clean the floors? For 50 years. The quiet, nervous man was gone. In his place was a cold, hard anger. That's evil. I can't find any proof, Mikey, Anna said, her voice breaking. He's erased everything. He's erased the public files, Mikey said, his voice suddenly sharp. He sat down at his main computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Mr. Graves is smart, but he's new. He doesn't know this system. Not like I do. He typed in codes, his eyes darting between screens. He can lock the doors, but he can't lock the history. Not from me. He was deep in the company's old, forgotten servers. They changed all the names on the new files, but they missed one. A scanned document. From 1973. His printer whirred to life. A single piece of paper slid out. Mikey picked it up, his hand shaking. Anna, he whispered. You found it. It's a partnership agreement. 50-50. Arthur Graves and Samuel Morrow. This is the proof. This is the whole company. They had it. The digital ghost. The proof that Samuel was the rightful owner. But why did Mr. Graves come back now? Why fire Samuel after all this time? Why was he so interested in that blueprint? Mikey, Anna said, the blueprint. The one with the red circle in the basement. Can you find it? Mikey's fingers flew again. A moment later, the blueprint was on his screen. The red circle was around a small, square room in the foundation. What's in there? Anna asked. I don't know, Mikey said. The label is corrupted. It's been digitally erased. Mr. Graves has been trying to access this file all week. He zoomed in. Wait, the original scan, it's a different file type. Let me try. He opened another file. The same room. But this time, it had a label. It said, SM Founders Vault. Samuel Morrow's Vault, Anna breathed. What's in it? Mikey's face went white. He pulled up the partnership agreement again. He pointed to a single line of tiny text at the very bottom. It says, all original hard copies, deeds, and founding bearer bonds are held by SM in the Foundation Vault. Anna finally, truly understood. That's why. That's why he's here. He doesn't just want the company. He wants to destroy the original proof. The proof that could take it all away from him. He fired Samuel to get him out of the way, so he could break into the vault. Anna, Mikey said, his voice sick. He's already found it. I found a work order. He hired an outside demolition crew. They're coming tomorrow morning. At 7 a.m. They're going to drill it open. 7 a.m. The words hung in the dark apartment like a judgment. Anna looked at the clock on Mikey's wall. It was 3:14 in the morning. They had less than 4 hours. 4 hours until Mr. Graves drilled into Samuel's vault, found the original, paper-proof, and burned it. 4 hours until he erased Samuel forever and won. What do we do? Anna's voice was a terrified whisper. We can't just walk in. He'll have security. He'll have us arrested. She was right. They were just 2 small employees. They had a single digital paper. He had the whole building. Mikey's face was not scared anymore. It was hard like cold stone. He wants to destroy the past. He wants to erase Samuel. We will not let him. He stood up and grabbed his keys and his company ID card. You're right, we can't stop him alone. But he's not the only one who can send an email. He looked at Anna, his eyes bright in the dark. He has the building. But we have the story. We are going to tell it. He had a plan. A desperate, crazy, all-or-nothing plan that could get them both fired, or worse. What are you talking about, Mikey? Anna asked, her voice shaking. He's going to destroy the real proof. The paper deeds. The bonds. Our little digital copy won't matter if the originals are gone. It will if everyone sees it, Mikey said, his voice hard. We're going to send that partnership agreement. Not just to the board. To every news station in the city. To every employee. We're going to light a fire so big he can't put it out. But they're still just copies, Anna said, still confused. That won't stop the drill. No, Mikey said, pulling on his jacket. It doesn't stop him. It just traps him. Now, come on. We have to be there. The drive to the Apex Solutions building was fast and silent. The city was dark and asleep. It was 5:30 a.m. The sky was just starting to turn a dark, bruised purple. Anna's heart was pounding with every red light. She held the old photo of Samuel and Arthur in her hand. It felt like holding a ghost. Mikey was driving, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. They were not just going to send an email. They were going to the basement. They had to be there. They had to be the ones to see it. They had to be the witnesses. Mikey's white keycard beeped at the back door entrance. The building was cold and silent. It felt like a giant, empty tomb. They did not take the elevator. They took the stairs. Dump, down, dump. Past the bright, empty lobby. Past the first floor. Into the levels Anna had never seen before. The air got colder. It smelled like damp stone and old, metal pipes. They were in the foundation. The basement. It was a maze of dark hallways. But Mikey knew where he was going. He was following the map from his computer. They turned a corner. And there it was. It was not just a room. It was a vault. A huge, square door made of thick, black iron. It was set right into the concrete foundation of the building. It looked ancient. It looked strong. But it was not strong enough. Standing in front of it was the demolition crew. 3 men in heavy boots, already setting up a giant, ugly drill on a metal frame. And standing next to them, holding a cup of coffee and looking at his watch, was Mr. Graves. He was not surprised. He didn't even jump. He just turned his head slowly as Anna and Mikey stepped out of the shadows. He smiled. It was the same cold, empty smile from the day he fired Samuel. "Anna," he said, his voice calm, as if he were greeting her at her desk. "And the IT boy. I should have known." He took a slow sip of his coffee. "You've been very, very busy. I'm impressed." He had known. The false alarm was a trap. He had been watching her. He had been waiting to see what she would do. "How did you know?" Anna whispered, her legs shaking. "You are just like him," Mr. Graves said, and he nodded at the vault. "My father. He was weak. Sentimental. He couldn't just get rid of the old man. He had to keep him around. A pet. A stupid, sentimental mistake." He looked at the iron vault with pure hate. "My father built an empire, but he left this poison in the foundation. He left this one, stupid key to his whole kingdom in the hands of a janitor. I'm not weak like my father. I clean up mistakes." "You're a monster," Mikey said, his voice shaking but loud. "He built this. It's his. It belongs to him." Mr. Graves just laughed. It was a short, ugly sound. "It belongs to whoever is strong enough to hold it." He turned to the man by the drill. "You can begin. Now." The operator nodded and reached for the power switch. The machine began to hum, a high, terrible sound. Anna's heart stopped. They were too late. It was over. "Stop," she yelled, but no one listened. The drill was about to touch the metal. "It's too late," Anna said, but her voice was suddenly clear and strong. Mr. Graves turned, an annoyed look on his face. "Yes, it is for you." "No," Anna said. She held up her phone. "It's too late for you. Mikey, send it." Mr. Graves' smile faded. "Send what? What are you talking about?" "The partnership agreement," Mikey said, holding up his own phone, his hand trembling. "It's already scheduled. In 10 seconds, it goes to the New York Times. It goes to the Wall Street Journal. It goes to every single employee in this company. It goes to the entire board." Mr. Graves' face went white. The color drained from him. He lunged not at Anna, but at Mikey. "No." Mr. Graves was fast. He was not a man in a suit. He was an animal. He lunged at Mikey and slapped the phone out of his hand. The phone flew through the air and hit the hard, concrete floor with a crack. The screen went dark. "Fools!" Mr. Graves screamed, his face red and ugly. He was breathing hard, his eyes wide and full of hate. He was standing over Mikey, who was on the ground. "You think you're so smart? You're nothing. You're fired. You're done." He felt good. He had won. He had stopped the email. He had broken the phone. The man at the drill had never stopped. He was just doing his job. As Mr. Graves was yelling, the man hit the power switch. The drill roared to life. It was a sound so loud, it felt like it was inside their bones. The metal drill bit, big and sharp, touched the black iron of the vault door. Screech! A terrible, high-pitched scream of metal on metal filled the basement. Sparks flew. Anna covered her ears and screamed, and it was too late. They had failed. The proof was being destroyed. But then, something strange happened. Mikey, on the floor, looked up at Mr. Graves. He was not crying. He was smiling. A small, shaky smile. "You're too late, Mr. Graves," Mikey whispered, his voice shaking. Mr. Graves' face twisted in confusion. "What did you say?" "The email," Mikey said, his voice getting a little stronger. "The 10-second timer? That was just a distraction. To make you look. The email sent 5 minutes ago. Before we even left my apartment." Mr. Graves froze. His body went stiff. He did not move. And in the terrible, screaming silence of the drill, a new sound was heard. A tiny sound. Bzzz, bzzz. It was Mr. Graves' phone, in his pocket. It was vibrating. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled it out. The screen was lit up. Missed call, board chairman. Missed call, board chairman. New email, urgent New York Times. New email, urgent Wall Street Journal. And then, the phones of the 3 demolition workers started to buzz, too. The man running the drill saw his phone light up. He let go of the switch. The terrible, screaming sound stopped. The basement was suddenly, completely silent. The only sound was the bzz of phones, echoing in the cold, damp air. The crew leader looked at his phone. His eyes got wide. He was reading the email. He saw the partnership agreement. He saw the names. He looked at Mr. Graves, who was still standing there like a stone statue. The crew leader shook his head. "We're done here," he said, his voice shaking. We're not a part of this." He and his men backed away, leaving their giant drill. Mr. Graves did not move. He just stood there, staring at his phone. He was not a lion anymore. He was a man in a dark room, all alone. He had lost. His father's ugly secret and his own were now in the light. They were everywhere. They were in the news. They were in the hands of every employee. 50 years of a lie, undone in a single night by the 2 people he never even thought about. He looked at Anna. His eyes were not angry anymore. They were just empty. He knew it was over. Then new footsteps. Not running. Not scared. They were slow and steady. Click, click, click. Someone was walking down the hallway. A light flicked on, flooding the dark, damp basement with bright, clean light. Standing in the doorway were 2 members of the company's board, their faces pale and sick with anger. And standing between them, wearing his simple, clean, blue janitor's uniform, was Samuel. He looked very tired, but he was standing tall. Samuel walked slowly over to Mr. Graves. He did not yell. He did not look angry. He just looked very, very sad. He looked at the giant iron vault, and at the new, ugly scratch where the drill had touched it. "Your father? He was always in such a hurry too," Samuel said. His voice was quiet, but it filled the whole room. "He couldn't wait to be rich. And you couldn't wait to destroy the last little piece of him. Of us." Mr. Graves said nothing. He had no words left. He was a ghost. Samuel reached into his own pocket. He pulled out a small, old, iron key. It was not the brass key Anna had found. This one was different. This was his key. He walked to the vault door. He put the key into a tiny keyhole Anna hadn't even seen. He turned it. Then he grabbed a metal bar and pulled. With a soft whoosh of air, the giant, heavy, iron door swung open. It wasn't hard to open at all. Samuel looked at Anna and smiled, just a little. "It was never locked to keep people out," he said. "It was just a door. To remember." Inside were the papers. The original partnership agreement. The deeds. But in the very front, there was a small, framed picture. It was the same one Anna had. Samuel and Arthur, smiling in the field. Samuel touched the glass. "He was my best friend," he whispered, and a tear ran down his old face. "He broke my heart. But I stayed. I had to protect what we built. I had to protect our home." This story is about a truth that was hidden. It was about a good man who was forgotten. But the world is full of Samuels. The quiet person who works hard and is never seen. The kind person who is pushed aside by someone loud and cruel. The ones who build the world and then are forced to clean its floors. We tell these stories for them. We want their voices to be heard. If you believe their voices matter, if you believe in the quiet, good people, please help us. Like this video. Share it so the truth can travel. And please, subscribe to our channel. It tells us that you are listening. And it gives us the strength to find the next story. Thank you for watching.